Uwe siara wa taifa. Kwanza inabidi uwe siara.
Mimi napenda muziki. Kwa hiyo nikimwona Diamond pale kwenye muziki nini, mko nafurahia.
Give your mental health a priority. Yani you should never ever compromise your mental health or your happiness for anyone. For anyone. Yani when I say anyone, I mean anyone.
Shughulisha kuelimisha mpaka mkesha ukesha, na alipisha vya kupisha utii kuzidisha wenye nidhamu ya kutosha ili malengo aliyojiwekea yaweze kamilika. Wanasema wahenga mtakasali uchonga mzinga, aliacha ujinga mdomo akaacha kuchonga. Akapiga moyo konde, na hii leo ni Alfonso wa podcasting na hawala hakuna mbambamba. Wassalamu.
Girlfriend Achori. Yeah. Hiyo nimeichukua. Yeah. Manchester United. Inakuumiza kiasi gani?
Hello Icons, this is Alfo Sierra Taifa and welcome back to the Icons podcast. It's been a while, it's been almost a year. At last we're back. Welcome back. This is the Icons podcast, and this time around we are going to do a lot of things. We'll be talking to different people, and I hope you'll be enjoying, you'll be having fun. At the same time, you'll be learning, because we will talk to different people from all over the world. Today we are going to host a biotechnologist, a Tanzanian diaspora, and he's the co-founder of Coastal Biotech, and a human history pioneer, and additional to that, he's the country representative for the Erasmus Mundus Scholarship program. So I hope we are going to talk a lot. We have got different things which we are going to talk about, and I'm pretty sure that you're going to enjoy this episode. Welcome on board, Danford.
Thank you so much for the welcome and for inviting me to be part of your session today in this episode. I hope it's going to be a very enriching discussion. It's a pleasure to be on your platform, and I look forward to a very rich discussion.
In brief, who is Danford?
In brief, I can say I am a Tanzanian youth, a co-founder of Coastal Biotech, as you have mentioned. I'm also a student in the Erasmus Mundus Master's degree in Chemical Innovation and Regulation, which took me through the University of Barcelona, the Technical University of Munich, the University of Algarve, which I'm now doing my master thesis. So briefly about me, very enthusiastic about biotechnology, as you have mentioned, and history, world history in general. And I would add languages to that.
Yeah, so like a person may be wondering, you've mentioned more than 4 universities over there. So how is that possible, like attending to all the mentioned 4 universities?
Yes, in the Erasmus Mundus joint master's degrees, these degrees are run by a consortium of universities. So if you can find 2 universities from a number of countries. They run these master's programs, and students have to start from one university, and they move through these universities according to their preferred study track. So, for example, I chose a thesis topic that I have to conduct at the University of Algarve. Therefore, we started together at the University of Barcelona, doing the coursework, attending classes, doing exams. And then after that, we split and did our internships at different places. I did mine at the Technical University of Munich. Then I am here doing my thesis. So that's just an example of an Erasmus Mundus program. Some people probably started in France at a certain university, then they went probably to the Netherlands, and they finished at some university.
For how long have you been there?
I spent 2 semesters at the University of Barcelona. That's approximately 1 year. And I spent 1 semester at the Technical University of Munich for my internship. That's almost 5 to 6 months. And now here at the University of Algarve, I have to complete another 6 months.
Most of people may be asking questions like, what the transition like from Tanzania to Europe? How was life like? At what point did you decide that this is then the right time for me to apply or to move to Europe? What was the real transition there from Tanzania to Europe?
I had just graduated from my bachelor's degree. I was studying a bachelor's degree in molecular biology and biotechnology at the University of Dar es Salaam. So I had just graduated in 2022, and I really did not have any plan to study abroad. So I am deeply into entrepreneurship, and I was continuing with my struggles, day-to-day struggles, trying to build a startup. But one day I saw a message that came in my WhatsApp group, one of my WhatsApp groups, MBSA. It's an association of students in my bachelor's degree. And I saw this, it was a Google meeting that some awardees of the Erasmus Mundus Scholarship were going to share how they got the scholarship. So I said, why don't I go and listen? And I went to listen to that, and I was really inspired. And when I took my own time to read, I found out they actually support students that have passion with entrepreneurship, passion with other things. They have the facilities. So I really wanted to take advantage of the support that these world-class institutions can offer, considering the passion that I have of entrepreneurship. And it hasn't disappointed, really. I have gotten support from the University of Barcelona. There's an institution called Start UB, and at the Technical University of Munich, where Coastal Biotech is incubated, we really got support from TUM Venture Labs, Technical University of Munich Venture Labs. So Erasmus really it became a reality.
We're going to talk more about it later. And so I just wanted to know, I'm kind of curious, like, how many languages do you speak?
Well, it differs depending on the level. They differ depending on the level, but also the capacity to listen, the capacity to read. Yes. So, and the capacity to write. So I can say the languages that I am able to read, to write, and to listen fluently are 3. I'm able to listen, to write, and to read Spanish, English, and my mother tongue, Swahili, of course. Back in 2018, between 2018 and 2021, I had studied Russian, but because of lack of practice, this is how languages fade away. So back then I had this ability I was also a bit fluent in Russian as well. And an additional language at the moment, I'm learning Portuguese, and soon I will begin German. So I can say fluently 3 languages, 2 languages, Portuguese and Russian. I am not fluent. I need a lot of practice, yes.
I think learning new languages is so hard because I've tried Spanish and it didn't work out. Can you give us like one piece of advice to people who are trying to learn new languages and the advantage of learning languages?
I can give a common tip that I use, maybe 2. So the first tip that I use in learning languages, the first one is I give so much attention to verbs, because verbs are the heart of a sentence, and verbs are probably the type of words that change the most during conjugation. So we conjugate verbs actually. So depending on situations, depending on tenses, depending on who you're dealing with, verbs change. And if you master the verbs, everything else will fall into place. You really do not want to start thinking, how do you call milk? How do you call maybe water or beer or something? You would focus on the word to drink. And then when a situation happens that needs you to drink, every other thing would fall into place. The time of the day, what are you drinking, where you are, all of these things surround the verb. So paying attention to the verb, really. And another tip that I use is mainly to surround yourself with this language, to make it part of your life. So I changed the settings in my phone, from English to Spanish, for example, when I was learning Spanish. I also started watching films with subtitles in Spanish. So the more these words get registered in my subconsciousness, the more these words get registered in my lexicon subconsciously, the easier for me. And it just works like magic. It took me nearly 8 months, and one day it was just I was sitting somewhere and in a meeting. As usual, I forced myself into a certain meeting. As I mentioned, to surround yourself with this language, the words of this language. So one day it just clicked, and I was like, Eureka, Eureka, Eureka! I got it, I got it, I can understand finally. You see, but it it didn't happen overnight. It took a long time, and now the pieces were falling into place. The verbs and the nouns and the adjectives. I could connect a sentence. I could listen, and I remember I was able to read my first passage of the newspaper. I was so happy. It takes time, really. Patience is important. So, two tips: surround yourself with these words, subtitles in a movie, settings, but also focus on verbs. Focus on verbs, you move so quickly, super quick. Yeah. And if there is any advantage of learning languages, someone said two languages open doors, but three languages open even more doors. So this is really the thing. Like, we are now living in a world whereby there is increasing competition of graduates, increasing competition of talent in the market. You really want to differentiate yourself, and we should go for the things that really increase the value of us. But apart from that, I think it's just exercise for the brain. You know, the brain is a muscle, they say, and it is a good thing to exercise the language parts of your brain.
My bad. I'm real sorry for the interruption. I'm so sorry. I got a question for you. Have you subscribed? I know you haven't, so we're going to do real quick right now. So, do you see this button? Click it. And then you have subscribed. You're now the icon. And turn on the notification bell for more videos from us. Now, we're going back to the episode. Enjoy. Perfect. So before diving into Coastal Biotech, because I know we'll be having time to talk about it, I just wanted to share with you, like, I saw from one of your social media, you were like, witchcraft being crime in Barcelona in 1424. This statement linked up with the social justice. Do you think, like, social justice, biotech, languages, how do you connect those three things?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. How I connect these three things? It's I would start first with understanding people. A language gives you like the keys to a certain community. You get to understand people better when you understand their language. There are many things people are not able to express in a foreign language, in a second language. So when you speak their language, they express so many things, and you're able to understand them. You're able to understand how they think. For example, after being able to understand Spanish, I have understood Spanish people more, just more from a behavioral thing. I understand even why a certain word was created. There is a history behind it, and you get to understand their way of thinking. And this gives you some sort of keys into to understand people more, their culture. And I can say people really appreciate this. It's one of the highest level of respect you can give people, to try to understand their culture and to learn it. So yes, first, learning the language has enabled me to understand the different cultures through their languages. From this, I've been able to connect with the different with the different struggles at the social level. For example, you mentioned social justice. You mentioned about witchcraft being banned in Catalonia, and the main victims used to be women back then, mainly immigrant women or widows, things like that. So I got to connect deeper and deeper with Catalonia. I traveled throughout Catalonia. I've been to many Catalan towns, and because of the language, I've been able to do all of these things. So languages have given me the key to understand the culture, and as one part, the struggle of the different social classes. And from this, I've been able now to use to link these two things to the solution like biotech. For example, biotechnology is a sustainable technology that can help to decarbonize very many industries, especially chemical industries. And there is a close link, a very close link between exploitation of the environment and exploitation of colored people, women, and different groups of people who have been historically oppressed or exploited, colonialism, slavery, and all of these things. There's a very deep connection. So how do we solve one and not forget about the other? So as they say in Spanish, that justicia social y justicia climática son dos caras de la misma moneda. That social justice and climate justice are two sides of the same coin. You cannot solve one and forget the other. Climate justice is, we are taught in school about the climate and we try deeply to understand. Social justice, one of the keys to understand different communities, their history, how they think, really, languages give you that key. And I have witnessed it.
Well, you have mentioned about Catalonia, or some other people call it Catalan, if I'm not mistaken. Is it different? Because I used to read about Catalan or Catalonia in some articles. Is it different from other parts of Spain? I mean, like culture, people. Because I heard that one time they were like trying to separate themselves from Spain.
Yes, Catalonia it's a semi-autonomous region of Spain. So Spain is divided into really many semi-autonomous regions. I could mention a few. For example, you have Catalonia, you have Valencia, you have Andalusia, you have the Basque Country, you have Galicia. These are just examples. And nearly all of these have their own languages. So in Catalonia, they speak Catalan. In the Basque Country, they speak a language that really doesn't relate to any of the languages in the countries or the semi-autonomous regions around. They speak Euskera. So in Galicia, they speak Gallego. In Valencia, they speak Valenciano. And the national language is Castellano, or in other words, Castilian Spanish, because you have Spanish that is Latam, Spanish from Latin America, and you have Spanish from Spain, which is Castellano.
I know you've been in different parts of the world right now. How many countries have you ever visited?
Countries that I've ever visited, I could count 6. I've been to 6 countries. Yes.
Among those 6 countries, like I know Spain, German, Portugal, Morocco, France, if not mistaken. And I don't know more about African countries which you visited, but I have a question over there. Like, speaking of traveling, you'll be speaking of culture, you'll be speaking of people, and among those countries you have traveled around, which is the best culture?
Well, that's a difficult one. For this one, I think Morocco has to forgive me. Well, our fellow African brothers, I was there for a short time and I have experienced some really high level of kindness. But I wouldn't mention Spain, and specifically where I have spent a lot of time in Catalonia and specifically Barcelona. So I have really many friends. I have experienced the highest level of kindness over there. I remember one day I went to a supermarket and my Google Pay was not functioning very well. And one family actually offered to pay for my groceries, and they did. And the next week I went to that supermarket. It was Condis. I went back to Condis and I returned that money to the cashier. I told her, you know, that family, if they ever come around, just give them the money. And guess what? They happened to be in the supermarket on the same day. And they're like, this is the guy we met last week, and they said this guy is very faithful, and we have to introduce you to the rest of the family. And since that day, it really opened a new chapter for me in Spain. And they introduced me to their family, and I got to have lunch with them during the weekends. We had trips to all the towns of Catalonia. Really, it's a bond that is unbreakable. They got to speak to my mom. Things just started that way, and that's just one family out of, I could say, probably 20 families. Really, they're very open people, very welcoming. It's a feeling like no other I've ever experienced. It was my first time outside Tanzania. I've never gone to any other African country before being to Spain. So after being to Spain, I went to Morocco for a couple of days. So really, first time outside Tanzania was Barcelona.
Let's talk about science, just a little bit about science. I know, and I'm pretty sure that the time you are growing up, you used to live science, like science was the part of your life, you know. And I have a question for you: is water older than sun?
Yes, this is actually something really interesting, I can say. Water is, I can say water is older than the sun. From the reading that I have done, from the research that I have done, it's a topic that I have researched over the years. So it's what's really interesting is that many religions and science agree on this. At least it's one of the points that religions and science come together and say, yes, water was here before the sun, you know? So, according to the Christians, according to the Bible, for example, you can see that even before the sun was created, you can you see that the Holy Spirit was hovering about the water. The earth was full of water, you know? And
Yeah.
according to the Big Bang theory, the within a very short time, we already had hydrogen formation, the simplest atom, hydrogen, and which is basically a proton, and oxygen, which is a heavier element. So what happens inside a star is that hydrogen is the fuel, and as time goes, stars are run by nuclear fusion. So hydrogen fuses with another hydrogen atom, they form helium, and then this fusion continues like a chain reaction, and you end up with heavier and heavier elements. So at some point, the oxygen and hydrogen were already formed, and they were able to create water even before our sun existed. And later, if this fusion continues inside a star, if it reaches iron, because this is how you create different elements, the origin of all of these different elements. You start with hydrogen, it fuses, it reached to oxygen, water was formed, and as time went by, carbon was produced, and if it reaches at the point where iron is produced, iron cannot burn as a fuel, and this is what causes the death of a star. So for really massive stars, they can implode, and there's like a gravity threshold whereby some stars explode, and there were some really astronomers of the thousands of years ago, they were able actually to see this supernova. But some stars implode because of the mass. If they're really massive, they implode inwards and they create a black hole, which is a region in space whereby the gravity is too strong. It actually forms a singularity. Even light cannot escape, light itself. So, yeah, water is older than the sun, as far as I know.
Okay, thank you. That was very, very deep science point of view. Let's talk about Wikipedia. Wikipedia, we know, it's like I often call it as a digital dictionary because it's the site or the place where I often find many written articles. I was passing through your social media and you are like you have already had written the Wikipedia articles. Can you talk more about it, please?
Yes. Well, you did some really deep research. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
So it was around 2021. I It was around 2021, and I wanted to improve my CV. I wanted to do something for society. I wanted to improve my writing skills. So I wanted to get all of these things at once. And so what I did is I had always had a passion of writing, sharing knowledge. So I reached out to Wikipedia Swahili, the Tanzania community. Of course, they work with the Kenyan community, but the ones in Tanzania. And I wrote them an email, and they sent me a link to join their WhatsApp group. I got some information, and they invited me to one of their sessions. And officially, I was able to join Wikipedia Swahili. I was able to contribute more than 100 edits before things changed, and I had to go for my master's degree. But during this time, really, I was able to write about monuments, world history, about science as well, like the World Genome Program, the Human Genome Program. And it was one of the topics that I was really interested in writing about. Sanamu za Memnon, the statues of Memnon in Egypt. I wrote about really a lot of stuff, some cities of the Mediterranean, like Numidia, some people have watched the second Gladiator movie, and it starts with Numidia. You cannot imagine the goosebumps I had when I saw Numidia, and I said, I know this city, I've written about it on Wikipedia Swahili. Yeah, so it was a chance to improve my writing skills. Writing is a way of thinking. It actually forces you to think in a way whereby you align your thoughts together. You arrange your thoughts. You learn how to kill your thoughts on paper so that you cannot die. So you learn how to kill your thoughts so you can live. This is basically what Jordan Peterson speaks about writing. And Jordan Peterson mainly blames our professors at universities why they don't tell us, why they give us these assignments to write. And if you notice something, every essay literally it needs to start with a problem for you to try to explain how you go about that problem. So writing is a way of thinking. Why is thinking important? Why do they have to teach us how to think? It's because thinking is the basis of problem solving, and problem solving is the basis of value creation. When you solve a problem, people can pay you some money. It's the basis of every job and every business. And value creation is how you get money and how you live. Therefore, really, school was meant to teach us how to think for ourselves and then solve problems and then make money later in life. But somehow we lose this whole sense of why do we have tons and tons of assignments. I really love writing reports more than examinations, because examinations measure my memory more. Well, it depends on the exam. I've had some of my favorite lecturers really have been giving the best exams which demanded thinking, but assignments for me are the best.
My bad. I'm real sorry for the interruption. I'm so sorry. I got a question for you. Have you subscribed? I know you haven't, so we're going to do real quick right now. So, do you see this button? Click it. And then you have subscribed. You're now the icon. And turn on the notification bell for more videos from us. Now, we're going back to the episode. Enjoy. I think it's time right now. Let's talk about Coastal Biotech. Most of the African startups face a lot of challenges. So, like, a person may start their own startups and then at the end they end collapsing. So let's talk about the Coastal Biotech. What is it? The foundation, like, where the idea and the procedures or the general overview of the Coastal Biotech for the icon who is watching this and doesn't know about the Coastal Biotech.
Yes, so Coastal Biotech is a marine biotechnology startup that aims to decarbonize how we feed ourselves. So by decarbonizing, I mean to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide emissions that the food industry is responsible for. And we're using macroalgae. So you have mainly two groups of algae: micro, which are microscopic, and you have macroalgae, which you can see with your naked eyes. So we use macroalgae or seaweed. So when the macroalgae is perennial, that's when you call it a seaweed. And seaweed in Swahili, we call it mwani. It's actually the second, yes, mwani. It's the second largest export for Zanzibar, for example, after cloves. So we process this seaweed through a process of fermentation. We do some alternating cycles of both aerobic and anaerobic fermentation. And we also do, we create a proprietary ratio of organic acids to serve as a preservative. We make this powerful biostimulant made of macroalgae, and when we provide it to plants, it enables them to withstand climate stress. So when I talk about stress, I mean excess or deficiency. This is the basic definition of environmental stress to a plant. So when we say excess of water, we mean drought. We mean floods. When we say excess of water, we mean floods. When we say deficiency of water, we mean drought. When we say excess of heat, this is heat stress. When we say there's deficiency of heat, we mean cold stress. So the different stresses, so these are abiotic stresses, non-living stresses. You have biotic stresses, which are living stresses. For example, fungi, bacteria diseases, viral diseases that attack plants. What biostimulants do when they land on the cell of a plant, plants already have receptors for the polymers that are present in the biostimulants, like these that we make. Once they perceive these polymers in our biostimulant, they are able to start a cascade of processes. A cascade is like a chain of processes, a handover between one enzyme, one signaling molecule to the other, until it reaches the DNA, whereby switching on and switching off of certain genes happens. And therefore, we say plants really have the capacity to fight back against climate change, but they need resources like biostimulants. This is what we do. For example, one of the products that come from this interaction between the biostimulants and the cell is the production of jasmonic acid, which in the end it's a hormone that improves the cross communication. It performs the cross communication between different processes that fight against abiotic stress. So another enzyme, another hormone that is being produced in this case is abscisic acid, which is very important to fight against drought. So we have done studies with mutants of abscisic acid, which is the chief hormone. It's called actually the stress hormone. It's what enables the plants to fight back against drought, against heat, and many other forms of stress. We have done trials with plants that don't have this gene, and plants that are not able to produce abscisic acid. We have also used controls that are able to produce this abscisic acid hormone. And we can see how they respond to the drought and how they respond to the biostimulant. So basically that's what a stress is, how our biostimulants interact with the plant. They lead to the production of hormones that fight against stress. And when a plant is able to fight against stress, it yields more and more. So at the moment, plants lose up to 60% of their yield to climatic stress. Can you imagine? A plant is not able to reach its genetic potential by 60%. It only is able to make up around 24%. 60% goes to abiotic stresses like drought and heat and salinity, and the rest goes to biotic stresses like diseases from fungi and bacteria. With biostimulants, we target to reduce the impact of these stresses, and by far I can say it's going on well.
Okay, let's talk about the Blue Africa Summit, which was held in Morocco. What was it like?
The Blue Africa Summit was a conference that brought together scientists, politicians, economists, and different thinkers that work around the blue economy space. And we met in Tanger, or in English I would say Tangier, in Morocco, and we discussed different things that pertain to the blue economy. So as a startup co-founder who deals in the research and development space of my startup, I was able to present what we do and interact with different stakeholders, ministers, and different people who run accelerators that were able to help us in one way or another, to connect us with potential clients, to connect us with potential investors. It was a massive conference. It was we were invited by I don't know how to pronounce it really well. My French is not really good. I would say La Saison Bleu and the Academy of the Kingdom of Morocco. So they invited us, and we are really grateful for such an opportunity. We met very important people whom we maintain close ties till today.
Who provide funding for the Coastal Biotech, and you are the co-founder for the Coastal Biotech. Who is the other co-founder or CEOs? I don't know. Yeah, you can explain about it if you wish to share with the icons who are watching this.
At Coastal Biotech, our core team is mainly of 5 people. Lavine Arvine is the CEO. She's originally from the UK. Stephen Sila deals with operation, and he is originally from Germany. Jorge Benavides is from Costa Rica, and he does biorefinery. And Luis Kramer, he is from Germany as well, and he is in the product development space. So this is the Coastal Biotech team. How we came together, first, the ones that already knew each other were Steve and Lavine. And through LinkedIn, they reached out to me, specifically Lavine, wrote me, Danford, I see you are already dealing with marine polymers, and this is the importance of having a LinkedIn profile with all of the stuff that you do. I mean, if you don't put your stuff out there, how are people going to know what you do? So Lavine saw my profile, and she saw I deal with seaweeds, specifically extracting high-value compounds like carrageenan. And she reached out and said, let's have a chat somewhere. And we met at some Turkish restaurant, Istanbul, at Mlimani City. And we discussed that it would be great really to align our efforts to see if we can do something together. And this was the beginning. Later, Jorge saw what we were doing on LinkedIn, and he wrote us directly, hey guys, Coastal, I really like what you're doing, and I believe in this mission. I want to join you guys. Lastly, Luis, last year I attended the Ultimate Demo Day, which was organized by Untanematum, which is it is the leading startup accelerator in Europe, and we got the invitation to present. And somebody heard the presentation and told me, you know what, I know a person who would be very valuable to your startup. His name is Luis Kramer, and they reached out to Luis, they gave them our contacts, and Luis reached out to us. And as now he's also a member of the co-founding team. So this is how we met. How we have been financed so far, we have, for a really long time, we've been using our own savings. And I mean, this is how startups go. I mean, it's a risk. About the funding, we have been self-funded till for a very long time. We have used our personal savings, but we have also gotten some support from Climate KIC. We won the Clim Accelerator last year, and we got some funding that we have used for different things to push the MVP to market and improve our premises. So really thanks to the Climate KIC for that support, but also for a really long time we have been going with our own savings.
What's your advice to the biotech pioneers, like the young people who are aspiring to pursue biotechnology or studying or taking the biotechnology major, and they are planning to make it as a professional career?
What I would advise people who are doing biotechnology and want to be entrepreneurs, or just basically anybody who wants to make it big out there, I emphasize on the basic skills. This is what I would emphasize: reading, writing, and speaking. This is what I would emphasize. So in the entrepreneurship space, being an academic, being a leader, you need to be able to speak. But to be able to speak, to be a good speaker, you need to be a good writer, because writing is what forces you to think and aligns your thoughts very well. It makes it easier for you to be speaking things if you have written them before. From writing, what do you write if you really do not, how do you write something you do not know? Therefore, reading is important. So just really basic skills. Reading, writing, both of these improve your capacity to speak. Speaking really makes the difference. So apart from these three very basic things that link to each other, that depend on each other, I would emphasize staying around the right people and having a good mentor. Just having a mentor would shorten the time that one needs to achieve a certain goal. You would skip a lot of pitfalls, a lot of downfalls. You would skip them, and you would get to your goal in a smooth way. I had some mentors when I was in during my bachelor's degree, and they're always in my heart. Dr. Annette David and Dr. Vincent Rekumbiza. These, I remember even my very first CV, they reviewed it and they helped me to polish it, advised me, really many things in the entrepreneurship space. Wikipedia, I was working with Dr. Annette. In the entrepreneurship space, I was working with Dr. Vincent Rekumbiza. You need a mentor. And besides that, your group of friends, they say you are the average of the 5 people around you. So really, the people around you can shape how you think. And this is very important. If you have those basic things, you're reading, you're knowledgeable, you're writing, your speaking skills, stay around the right people and just move forward. This is what I would advise a person who wants to achieve big.
Thank you so much about that. And one last thing is, for the professional point of view, if you had to explain about biotech to a 5-year-old kid, how would you do so that they can understand you?
Okay. This is how I would define biotechnology to a 5-year-old child. So just for everybody, I would like to first define what biotechnology is, briefly and shortly in simple words. So it's the use of living organisms or parts of living organisms or things produced by living organisms like enzymes, their hormones, to produce products or to do services that serve a particular function for a particular market, for a particular purpose. So, for example, we have insulin. It's a hormone that is very important for regulation of the blood sugar level. So, right now, bacteria and yeast that have been engineered to have genes that can enable them to produce insulin. We are able to produce insulin through fermentation. We don't have to take insulin from a cow, from a goat, from sheep. No, we can produce it using bacteria. But even if we were to use that from a cow, it's also biotechnology because it comes from a living organism. But I'm just trying to show treating a disease using a secretion of a living organism, like a hormone. Another basic example would be wines, spirits, alcohols, yogurt, fermented foods in general, and drinks. So this whole process needs inoculation. In sterile conditions, these things cannot be created through microorganisms. You need to inoculate these microorganisms. Of course, there are chemical ways to do it, but if we use biotechnology, we need to introduce these microorganisms. If now I were to explain this to a 5-year-old kid, I would use an example. I doubt if they would listen to me to the end, like what I just explained. To a 5-year-old kid, I would say, I would give them a bottle of vinegar on one hand, and I would tell them to pour that vinegar into fresh milk. And they would observe how the whey, WHEY, the water that forms part of yogurt, is formed from fresh milk. All of a sudden, you have some solid part and a liquid part. They separate. The proteins start to fold, and it's because of the pH change, but they don't know what the pH is. They just introduce an acid. So I would tell them the conditions for these proteins, casein, to be soluble have changed, and therefore now they fold, and you can see them with your eyes. What you did with that vinegar bottle, you changed the conditions. Then I would take the same child and tell them, this is fresh milk. I would keep it in highly sterile conditions. it wouldn't ferment. And then later I would tell them, now dip your finger and stir the milk with your finger and close it and leave it for 5 days. And after 5 days, it will turn into yogurt. Between 5 to 7 days, it will turn into yogurt. At least you will see it's already starting to spoil, to ferment. And I think would be the easiest thing. I would just show them that now you did not add vinegar. You added something from your finger. Bacteria. Specifically lactobacillus. I would do this small exercise with them. And why a small exercise? When you involve people, they never forget. But if you make them listen, you make them watch, it is less engaging. But if you make them be part of the thing, they never forget.
Sijarekodi muda mrefu. Enthusiastic sorry, he's a biotechnologist, right? Sindio?
Yeah, unaweza kusema biotech enthusiast. But biotech enthusiast and
we are glad that we are back. So okay. Hizo nitajua jinsi ya kudili nazo. So today we are going to host one of the, hapa najaribu sijui nitumie nani gani, nitumie nini, adjective gani. So have you been in Catalonia? Is Catalonia good? Okay. Yeah, afunge as time goes unapokuwa unaongea ndo unakuwa unapata ile nini tunasema utulivu.
Mzee, tumefikia pazuri kabisa. Chaja
yeah, sio mbaya. Zikiwa nyingi sana sometimes zinakera. Mwenyewe nazitumiaga sana. This time around najitahidi niziepuke.
Okay, kabla ushauri ambao naweza nikawapatia watu ni mainly ni kujisurround na watu sahihi. Kujisurround na watu sahihi, being around the right people. Inakupunguzia muda ambao unaweza kaupoteza. It reduces the time. It's having the right mentor and being around the right people. This is what I can say, because I have seen, besides doing your own homework, reading a lot. Yeah, okay, let's go. I will start with having the passion for knowledge, besides reading a lot, besides writing a lot, because writing enables you to be a good speaker. And in the entrepreneurship space, you need to be speaking a lot about what you do. And if you do not write enough, you're unable to speak well. So reading, writing, speaking, very basic skills. We cannot skip the basics. People fail because of these basics. Technical people, smart people fail because of these 3 basics. Guys, I'll start with the basics. Apart from that, if you master these things, you need to have the right people around you. Guys, okay. Give me 30 seconds and then you will cut this part out. I would like to use an example. Because children work well with things. So I would say, this is how you do something using this, and this is how you do something using that. So I would give a basic definition of biotech. Biotechnology is the process of making goods or services by using living organisms, or parts of living organisms, or things produced by living organisms. So they include, for example, making cheese, making yogurt, and they go to specialty products, even like drugs, like insulin. We have a gene from an organism that can produce insulin. We shift it into a yeast or a bacteria, and in a fermentation tank, we can make insulin hormone and sell it to help people. So this is biotechnology. So I would, the best example I would explain to them is I'm trying to find the best. I need just an example. I will first start with the definition, and I'm looking for a very childish example. So a very childish example. Yeah, I would take ethanol, ethanoic acid, and vinegar. I would go to my cupboard, I would take vinegar, I would pour it into milk, and then I would observe how the milk changes, how the proteins coagulate, and how the water separates itself. And I would tell the child this is because the favorable conditions for the protein to dissolve have changed, and therefore the proteins have coagulated together. The forces of attraction between them are now stronger. On the other side, these properties have not been changed by you, by pouring an acid, but by a bacteria, lactobacillus. So I would take the kid and I would tell them, now dip a finger into this milk. Dip your finger into this milk and leave it. Leave it for 5 days. And after 5 days, we would come and find out, without adding the vinegar, the milk has coagulated. So let's go. Ask me again this